Good evening sa lahat. Ako si P. Renada, Rappler Reporter. Welcome to the second episode of Campaign Convos, isang weekly talk show and podcast ng mga Rappler campaign reporters talking about the presidential and vice presidential candidates of this year's election. So, bagong lahat, magpapakilala muna kami, yung mga hosts dito sa Campaign Convos. So, first to my right.
Hi everyone, I am Jairo Boliedo, Rappler reporter covering Calyode de Guzman and Walden Bello.
Hello everyone, I'm Aika Ray and I cover Team Pacquiao Atienza.
I'm Ramo Talabong. I cover Senators Panfilo Lacson and Vicente Soto III, Tito Sen.
Mara.
Hi, I'm Mara Cepeda. I cover Vice President Leni Robredo and her running mate, Senator Kiko Pangilinan.
Okay lang yan. It's been a very long week. Hi, I'm Bea Cupin. I cover PDP Laban, Lakas CMD, and Sara Duterte.
Hello sa inyong lahat. Live from the West Arena in Valenzuela.
Yes.
I am Lian Buon and the one I cover is behind me actually, the standee of former Senator and Presidential Frontrunner Bongbong Marcos.
And again, I'm P. Renado covering the Isko Willie Tandem. So, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. And this is the second episode, as I said earlier. Yung topic namin, very interesting and very timely. Pag-uusapan natin ang mga proclamation rally sa mga kandidato na nangyari noong Tuesday, February 8. So, sa mga hindi nakakaalam, no, yung proclamation rally, it basically marks the start of the official campaign period. So, first question for my co-hosts, ano nga ba ang significance ng isang proclamation rally? Like, people are also wondering, di ba, may mga naganap namang events before February 8, di ba? Nakita naman natin yung mga candidates moving around and even holding concerts and everything. So, what makes the proclamation rally different?
I'll go ahead if no one wants to start.
Go.
Parang pinag-usapan nga nung in the running nung Tuesday. Parang it's been so long, Tuesday lang pala yun. Kumbaga, it's the lead. It's the starting sentence of a campaign. Yung mas technical side dun ay mag-apply na yung rules as a candidate. So, I think that's been discussed in a separate podcast. Di ba may cross-promotions tayo. So yeah, and I think in a way it also sets the tone, or at least the idea is you set the tone of the campaign for the next 90 days. So I don't know, maybe I wonder what the others think.
The proclamation rallies of the candidates are also a chance for them, show of force ito. So usually we expect them to hold their proclamation rallies at a place where they are strong, usually sa kanilang baluarte. So for VP Leni Robredo, dito sila sa Naga, nag-hold ng proclamation rally. And show of force siya kasi very easily, at least around 15,000 people yung pumunta. And if you've seen the aerial shots of the crowd, quite accurate yun, and I was there as well. So, maganda siyang pang-set ng tone also and pang-influence din ng mga botante na, madaming tao na pumunta dun sa proclamation rally ng kandidato na to. So, you should join it. So, it's also a type of a perception war kind of thing with their other opponents. And this is also a good opportunity for voters to see what's the central message of the campaign. It's an opportunity for the candidates to translate, their vision, to say their vision and to specify kung paano nila yun gagawin in specific programs.
Right. So in short, para siyang chance for the candidates to project how strong they are coming into the race and kung sino yung allies nila, who's on their team. So siguro to give an example or to illustrate exactly what that means on the ground, kung sino yan ay kailangan nang lumuwas a bit to cover the campaign of Bongbong Marcos. Siguro unahan muna natin si Lian, no? Lian, paano ba nakapag-project ng power yung team ni Sara Duterte and Bongbong Marcos during their rally in the ISP?
Yung proclamation rally nila, Pia, sa Philippine Arena was a strategy kasi marami nagtatanong bakit hindi sa Ilocos Norte, bakit hindi sa Davao City. It was a strategy to consolidate the crowd, their supporters, and a strategy to show just how strong they are. And they are very successful in showing that. Yung estimates galing sa Marcos Camp to, though, Yung estimate galing sa Marcos camp is 30,000 people. Critics may doubt. Parang madami ba, wala, madami ba kasi daw maraming empty seats sa Philippine Arena. But we have to remember, hindi naman pwedeng dapat mapuno ang isang arena kasi bawal yun sa protocol, di ba? So the half capacity, napuno naman siya. And whether it's 25,000 or 30,000, when you talk to supporters, and kanina nga lang habang pagpasok ni Bongbong Marcos dito sa West Arena, marami talagang sumisigaw ng Marcos pa rin, Marcos pa rin. So, yung kanilang rehabilitation ng kanilang image that people still support the dictator Ferdinand Marcos despite the atrocities of martial law, yun yung gusto nilang ipakita na we are still this many strong, and hindi naman yun hindi siya mahirap paniwalaan seeing that he's leading in the surveys. And another projection of strength is the fact that many of the shared candidates were in their proclamation rally in Bulacan. For example, Senator Mig Zubiri was there. Senator Shercy, Bongbong Marcos, and Sara Duterte. So, kung consolidation of force lang naman, showing just how strong they are, they successfully did it in their proclamation rally. Yun nga lang, sinabi nyo nga kanina ng ibang reporters, if this was the chance to lay down the platform, then that was a lost opportunity because the speech of the presidential frontrunner mentioned nothing about platform and just something about unity. And if you were to ask political analysts, probably they'd say that was a missed opportunity. Pero siguro ang kailangan tanungin ng lahat ng tao, including their opponents, ano ba ang hanap ng tao? Yung platform o yung feeling ng hope and unity? And you know, when they play Umagang Kay Ganda, you can feel it talaga. So, yun, that's the kind of campaign that they were able to mount and very successfully displayed in the proclamation rally.
Speaking of shared candidates, Lian, I think si Rambo has something to say about that kasi medyo nagka-drama yung kanyang candidates, yung kanyang tandem, dun sa hindi pag-show up ng ilang senatoriable candidates niya. So, Rambo, what happened there? And ano na yung pinaka-latest doon?
Okay, so ang gandang show of force nga talaga siya, di ba? Consolidation. At syempre kung magko-consolidate ka, meron kang panghuhugutan ng forces. At ang losers for the proclamation rally, I believe, is the tandem of Lacson and Soto. Kasi kung nandun sila sa Philippine Arena, wala sila kina Soto. So itong dalawang bitaw ay sina Senators Win Gatchalian at saka Mig Zubiri. Si Mig Zubiri nagpaalam daw at saka si Senator Win Gatchalian nagpaalam sa kanila as in the night before na dito kami dadalo sa mas malaking rally. Kaya pwede bang payagan nyo kami? Pumayag naman yung mga kandidato natin kino-cover. Sabi nila, basta wag kayong mag-i-endorse sa kanila kay Sara at saka kay Bongbong Marcos. Pero ang nag-endorse expressly ay si Senator Win Gatchalian. Kaya today, in-announce ng mga kandidato ko na wala na si Senator Win Gatchalian sa kanilang slate. Kasi ang sinabi ni Senator Win Gatchalian sa Philippine Arena, ang future President Marcos at future Vice President Sara Duterte. Kaya tinanggal siya. So, dito mo na makikita yung problema din siguro ng agawan ng mga senatorial bets din nga, shared candidates. And the candidates, as mentioned by Senator Lacson and Soto, syempre they have to make a choice. Syempre, imposible namang nasa two venues at the same time sila. Kaya dito mo rin makikita yung priority nila. At ang nangyari, hindi pinrioritize itong si Lacson at si Soto. Kaya ang nangyari doon sa proclamation rally na dinatnan natin sa kanila, puro video message. As in, majority ng mga senatorial sila, puro video message. Yung kanilang mga nandun lang, 5 lang. So, kung sinabi ni Lian yung kay Bongbong Marcos, talagang successful display of consolidation, presence, narrative. Feeling ko mas inverse itong kay Lacson at saka kay Soto. Maraming butas dun sa kanilang senatorial balls. Tapos hindi ganoon ka-solid yung parang Umagang Kay Ganda factor. Very, very platform heavy din itong si Lacson at si Soto.
Lian, kamusta si Bongbong Marcos in terms of yung powers niya as a public speaker? Kasi narinig ko from some people na hindi siya ganun kagaling mag-speech, like hindi siya ganun charismatic, but I don't know, someone covering him, do you see the impact of his speech on the audience? And do you think it's because of his oratory?
No, he's not the most prolific public speaker. Kaya nga meron siya mga kumakalat na all those spliced videos of him stumbling, pero di naman siya laging nag-i-stumble, but he's not compared to Sara Duterte, he's not the most prolific speaker. Pag nagsalita si Sara at kadikit agad si presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos, makikita mo yung difference. Not only of being prolific, no, but of charm and actually substance. Kasi naalala mo, Bea, nung nag-virtual caravan sila, Mayor Sara would speak about very specific things that she
I think nawala yung audio ni Lian.
Yeah,
Sige.
I didn't catch the last part. Pero dagdag ko lang din parang dun sa consolidation and then the VP and presidential dynamics. Parang yun din yung it's also a chance to show to a wider platform for the tandem, no? Yung parang ano yung synergy nila kumbaga heading into the election. Kasi kung baga, parang isipin natin ulit, di ba, yung VP wala naman siyang defined role. Therefore, hindi naman siya pwedeng kumampanya with a platform kasi anong ipa-platform niya, hindi naman siya Pangulo. So yung Pangulo dapat may karagang platform. Kung napansin niyo kunwari si Sara Duterte, yung speech niya during the kick-off was really building up her presidential candidate, her chosen running mate. Parang kumbaga, not justifying but really explaining to people bakit siya yung pinili kong kandidato, bakit siya yung dapat maging leader. Kasi parang yun din yung role ng vice presidential candidate in a way to build up the presidential candidate. Siyempre, problema din doon kung medyo lagging behind yung VP candidate compared to the presidential candidate. Siguro, ibang discussion na yun later on. Pero yun, just to add to what Lian was saying earlier.
In terms of yung person who draws the most crowds, like, who do people stay for? Si BBM ba mas yung hinihintay na lahat or actually is it Sara? Curious lang ako. For Bea. Ay, hindi ba rinig?
Nawala.
Hello. Oo, nawala. Sige. It's okay. Alright. So, siguro ibang candidates naman. Like, para sa inyo, yung na-impress ba kayo sa speeches ng mga candidates nyo?
Well,
sige,
for VP, well, for VP Lenny, sige, I'll just go ahead while we're waiting for Aika to jump in. For VP Lenny, one thing that I noticed with Bicolanos is that when VP Lenny arrives, they're really excited. So I could tell that ito talaga yung baluarte niya kasi, ang style kasi ni VP Lenny for her campaign kickoff, parang it's a series of campaign stops all throughout Camarines Sur, tapos kumaga nag-culminate dun sa Proclamation rally. And nakita ko dun sa Libmanan, sa Tigaon, and also in Iriga, people were there as early as 8 a.m. Tas ang dating ni Lenny, 4 hours, 5 hours later, and they were all still so excited. And when they finally see her, they really flock to her, and then they listen. I would describe it as they are attract attention when VP Lenny is talking, and she's able to say that the kind of new politics that she is offering is something that they have seen already in Naga City, something that Bicolanos have already seen being done by VP Lenny Robredo and her late husband, the longtime Naga City Mayor Jesse Robredo. And she also made sure na nakaakma yung messaging niya dun sa mga Bicolanos na sinasabi niya na for the long, and I think this is something that stirs an emotional matinding hugot sa mga Bicolanos na for the longest time pakiramdam nila laging nakakalimutan ng Bicol, and it still remains one of the poorest regions in the country, and matagal na nilang hinihingi yung PNR, marami na silang hinihingi in terms of infrastructure and development on electricity, farm to market roads, at lagi nilang pakiramdam na nakakalimutan yun. So I think one of the striking messages also of VP Lenny is that, siguro naman kung Bicolano ang Pangulo, hindi na makakalimutan ng Bicol. Yun, and they really listened to her throughout. And I think one unique thing about VP Lenny is that she knows her audience very well. So her main speech was delivered in Filipino, but then right after she said, wait lang, di pa ako tapos, syempre i-address ko kayo in Bicol. So I don't understand. I don't speak the language, but I was able to understand what she was saying, di ba? The kind of good messaging transcends language. And doon talaga inisa-isa niya yung pag-i-introduce sa lahat ng mga candidates niya, including the guest candidates who weren't there. Even the controversial guest candidates who, didn't appear on stage with her. Tapos talagang yung crowd, they would chant the candidate's name paulit-ulit. Tapos parang ang yung metaphor ko doon, si VP Lenny, parang yung audience, para silang estudyante, tapos si VP Lenny yung kanilang favorite teacher. So every time na mag-cheer sila, parang sasabihin ni VP Lenny na, awat na, awat na. Tapos tatawa sila. Tapos tatahimik sila kasi pakikinggan nila what VP Lenny has to say again. And so, yun, parang to me, what I felt covering that proclamation rally is that Naga-News really love VP Lenny, no doubt about that.
Sige, we'll go more into yung other candidates, pero I think, nandiyan ba si Lian? Okay. So we have
balik na
Lian
sila.
Oo nga. Sige. So pagsamantala natin na nandito na si Lian, yung question ko lang kanina is, sino yung bigger crowd drawer between Marcos and Sara Duterte? Like, sino yung pinaka hinihintay ng lahat and who actually gets the most applause between the two of them?
Actually, wala naman ako sigurong quantitative or qualitative basis to say who's who, no? Pero I just wanted to finish my thought kanina na he's not the most prolific speaker. Pero wala namang pakialam yung mga tao doon. Actually, every time I go to the rally, he's really, really received well and warmly. And if you talk to them, ito kasi yung sinabi sa kanila ng lola niya, ng lolo nila, ng tatay niya, ng nanay niya. And the fact that you have Mayor Sara Duterte as his running mate, so meron yung added factor na yun. Lalo na kung this is part of the Duterte base, yung 16 million Duterte base. And pareho naman silang crowd drawer. Pero syempre, as in any tandem, dapat yung spotlight nasa presidente. Kaya nga kanina, nung pagdating niya ulit ay grabe yung electricity ng umagang kay ganda and people shouting, Marcos ka rin. So these are really the loyalists who may have recruited more to their side over the last 6 years or maybe over the last 35 years. So yes, yung speeches niya has no platform, pero again, my question is, may pakiba yung kanyang mga supporter.
So, yung kaisa-isang candidate na nag-proclamation rally outside Luzon is actually si Senator Manny Pacquiao. So, kasi ko pumunta pang Gensan, General Santos City, para i-cover yun. Kamusta naman yung Gensan? Like, were they all out for Manny Pacquiao?
Kapag nandun ka mismo sa venue, mararamdaman mo na suportado talaga sila kay Senator Manny Pacquiao, no? Pero kung lalabas ka sa mismong venue, parang kokonti lang talaga yung mga tarpaulin na makikita mo, no? Pero once you get there, mapapansin mo talaga na very excited silang makinig sa kanya. At saka talagang sumisigaw sila na nakikita nila si Senator Pacquiao at saka nakikinig talaga sila. So, katulad nga na sinabi ni Mara, no, na kung yung mga Bicolanos, talagang mararamdaman mo na love nila si VP Lenny. Ganun din yung mga taga-Gensan kay Senator Pacquiao. And ang speech ni Senator Pacquiao actually mix siya of Bisaya and Tagalog. And kami personally, yung mga nagko-cover doon, medyo nahihirapan kaming mga galing sa Manila, to understand kasi nagbibisaya siya. But then you would feel like talagang yung crowd na they really support what he's trying to say, sinusuportahan talaga nila kung ano yung mga gusto niyang gawin. Dahil isa sa mga core na pinupush talaga ni Senator Pacquiao, no, is yung housing. So marami talaga, kapag sinasabi niya yung mga promises niya, talagang sumisigaw sila na o kaya pumapalakpak sila, tapos maririnig mo rin talaga sa background na biglang minsan may mga sisigaw talaga ng money, as in ganun talaga. And I think part na din nung parang branding niya, no, kasi yung kung outsider ka at kung pupunta ka doon para mag-cover, mararamdaman mo na parang parang ang simple lang nung kanyang proclamation rally at hindi siya yung parang show of force kung yun yung talagang ine-expect mo sa isang proclamation rally. Parang nagmukha siyang mas simple lang at kung ano yung talaga yung parang how he branded himself na simple lang, galing ako sa mahirap at mas gusto talaga niyang makipag-usap, no, sa ground kaysa dun sa mga performances o kaya yung kahit anumang fanfare. Actually, isa rin ding part doon, no, na I'm not sure kasi hindi ko na monitor yung sa ibang mga kandidato. Pero yung kay Senator Manny Pacquiao kasi, bago siya magsalita, ang nagsalita doon ay si Mami Junicia, yung nanay niya, at saka yung wife niya na si Jinky Pacquiao. Pero yun nga, di ba nabanggit ko kanina, wala masyadong performances or anything na parang celebrities na nandun, no? Pero nung pagdating nung nagsalita si Mami Junicia, and yung speech niya in all Bisaya talaga. Tapos, parang siya yung naging talagang yung crowd, as in almost every few seconds or every minute ng pagsasalita nila, talagang tumatawa sila kasi talagang gets na gets talaga nila yung sinasabi ni Mami Junicia. And I think siguro ikwento ko lang sa inyo yung isang part na sinabi ni Mami Junicia. No? Although in Bisaya niya sinabi yun, buti na lang sa team namin merong nagbibisaya so na-translate ka agad sa amin. Ang sasabi niya basically na parang nung tumakbo daw, nung sinabihan daw siya natatakbo si Senator Pacquiao, parang medyo hesitant siya kasi sabi niya parang mawawalan na naman daw ng sako-sako ng pera. So pagkatapos so sobrang tawang-tawa yung mga tao. And syempre kami din natatawa din kami kaya parang at the same time din namin naiintindihan ko rin nangyayari. But super funny. So yun, parang simple, walang fanfare, walang performance, wala masyadong performances aside from yung mga nagsusupport talaga sa kanya. So parang yun yung sinasabi niya, ito si Manny Pacquiao, parang ganun.
Actually, same with Isko. Parang surprisingly for someone na nanggaling sa showbiz, walang nag-perform sa rally niya, walang artista na na nasa stage except if you count Vivian Velas na has been mostly a government official for the past few years. So, medyo surprising 'yun. At the same time refreshing kasi yan medyo iba siya from the traditional proclamation rally. It was really centered on yung speeches ng mga politicians and candidates. So, interesting 'yun. Pero si Jairo naman covers Calyodi. Si Calyodi, syempre yung promise niya, alternative to the traditional politician. So, gaano ka-iba yung kanyang rally compared to the rest? And did it really live up to being like alternative and non-traditional?
Yung kay Lodi kasi, kung kanina sinabi nila, show of force yung ibang candidates. Yung kay Lodi, parang ang nangyari, nasampulan siya because they had no campaign permit to hold their campaign rally sa bantay ng mga bayani. It was also a surprise for everyone, for all the reporters covering Lodi. Kasi parang we had no idea na parang of course kailangan mo ng permit kasi pandemic and it's pretty obvious that you have to have a permit to hold a big event like that. But nagulat kami na in-announce ng COMELEC from a different briefing na parang of all the candidates who filed, who requested for permit to hold an event in NCR, wala silang natanggap from Lodi. So, yun yung naging yun yung naging parang center ng campaign rally niya. Although maganda yung pinaka campaign launch sa Bantayan ng mga Bayani, parang yun yung naging personality nung whole day na event. Even after the event that we had an ambush interview with Lodi de Guzman, the reporters did not ask about his platforms whatsoever or follow up on his certain policies, but doon pa rin sa campaign permit. And during that ambush interview, Lodi de Guzman admitted that they had lapses and at the same time, they had no permit talaga. The COMELEC kasi requires LGU permit and before you can request for a COMELEC permit. Now, sabi ni Lodi, Feb 6 daw sila nag-submit, but the COMELEC says na kailangan nila at least 72 hours to file such permit, to process such permit. So basically, hindi talaga sila umabot at nag-hold sila without a permit. The campaign launch itself is, yes, to answer your question, Pia, alternative siya in a way na if you're familiar with how activists, how progressive individuals, how progressive groups hold their mass organizations, yung mga rally nila, yung mga picket nila, ganun yung feels sa bantayog ng mga bayani. Pinili nila yung lugar na yun to be sentimental because si Leody de Guzman and si Walden Bello, sabi nila tumatakbo daw sila to fight their so-called Duterte Marcos-Duterte axis of evil. So doon nila yung lugar, and then at the place itself, sakto naman yung mga tao. I think based on their estimate, around 1.1k people yun nandun, basta sa kanilang estimate natin around 1,200 to 1,500. Napuno naman, barely yung bantayog ng mga bayani kasi malaki naman yun. Saka may social distancing yung mga tao. So, hindi siya katulad ng ibang campaign events na campaign venues na mostly nakatayo, doon may mga upuan per tao talaga. And we talked to supporters of Leody who attended the campaign launch, and then most of them, unlike kasi nung other candidates, ang kaibahan kasi kay Leody, yung mga tao doon ay kilala niya personally or may connection sila. Kasi di ba usually, ito yung mga candidates natin, ito talaga yung mga supporters, katulad ng mga supporters ni former Senator Bongbong Marcos, sinusuportahan nila si BBM because yun yung sinabi ng lola nila, idol nila or whatsoever. Si Leody, yung supporters niya, ito yung mga natulungan niya, mga kasama niya sa union, mga taong naniniwala doon sa causes niya. So he stayed true to his words, and yun talaga yung pinarating nila, alternative campaign talaga, and alternative politics. Even sa speech niya, inulit-ulit niya lang yung usual na platform niya about alternative politics and alternative economy.
So, kabaliktad na naman ng parang star-lacking proclamation rallies, yung kinover ni Rambo na yung Ping Soto tandem na opposite naman, like, ang daming stars, ang daming showbiz personalities. Pero Rambo, do you think na this is actually helping, especially Lacson? Does it matter anymore for everyone? Does it matter anymore na may artista na nagbaback sa isang candidate? Gaano ba kalakas yung showbiz factor sa pag-convince sa isang tao na bumoto for that candidate?
Siguro kailangan ko tingnan yung history for elections dito sa mga sa endorsements of celebrities. But if we're going to look at the track record of Senator Vicente Soto III, from his first run in 1988, nagpapakita na tong Itbulaga Dabarkads. At tinatawag pa nga siyang vice minsan nila eh. As in vice, kasi that's from 1988 na tinulungan din siya. As in constant presence sila. So dito nakikita natin na sinusubukan niya ipasa yung kanyang karisma talaga kay Senator Panfilo Lacson. At sinusubukan nilang buhayin yung kampanya. At ito rin yung pinagbago dito kay Lacson at kay Soto sa kampanya sa Proclamation Rally. The thing about their campaign is nagsimula sila ng campaign launch noong 2021, August. Nagsimula sila ng campaign launch noon kahit na hindi pa election period. Pero hindi nila sinabi na hindi na iboto sila. Pero after that, ngayong Proclamation Rally, nagkaroon ng intermission numbers. Nung first campaign launch kasi nila, walang intermission numbers. Yun daw yung marking factor nila na hindi sila mag-intermission number. Pero since Proclamation Rally na, as in bring out the big guns, ilabas na natin lahat ng ating pwede ilabas sa ating arsenal, ito na nga yung biggest bazookas ni Senator Tito Soto at talagang pinigang-piniga niya tong mga to. Nandun talaga si Wally Bayola at saka si Jose Manalo, the most popular duo in Philippine comedy. Tapos nandyan din of course ang isang napakasikat na tao, si Vic Soto, na kilala ng mga Pilipino kahit sinong tanongin mo. As in, mas malakas pa talaga yung karisma nitong mga artistang to kaysa dun sa mga kandidato. Kasi sobrang platform-focused yung mga kandidatong nandun eh. For example, Minggita Padilla, who's a doctor, nagsasalita siya about COVID. Yung mga tao, kung titingnan mo, aburido na. Tapos, kung titingnan naman natin isa pang kandidato, si Monsor del Rosario, maraming nagagwapuhan sa kanya, sabi ng mga botante na katabi natin. Pero ang pinag-uusapan niya, Philippine sports, hindi rin sila sobrang na-engage. Nakita lang natin yung mga taong tumayo nung nagpakita na yung mga artista. Lumapit talaga sila sa stage. At habang nakatayo na sila doon, ang galing nga eh. Malapit na sa stage to mga taong lumabas na si Vic Soto, Wally Bayola, itong mga artista, so consolidated yung mga tao sa harap, di ba? That was literally before Senator Panfilo Lacson. So nakatayo na yung mga tao, tsaka tumayo si Lacson, speech na niya, at syempre, from the high of the artists, of the celebrities, na-carry over na kay Lacson. Tapos sinustay na lang ni Lacson, that was the climax, and then boom, tapos na yung kanyang Proclamation Rally. Kaya sa tingin ko, sobrang useful din. Kasi kung wala sila, feeling ko hindi tatayo yung mga tao. Feeling ko baka nga makatulog pa eh. Hindi naman sa boring talaga. Pero kung wala sila, hindi sila pupunta sa stage. Pakiramdam ko.
Yung kay Isko naman, siguro yung bago lang. Kasi obvious naman na he would hold it in Manila. Obvious naman, actually yung ibang politicians doon, dati naman nag-proclaim na they support Isko like months before. Pero yung bago, siguro yung presence ng mga Duterte supporters and Duterte cabinet members and officials. Kasi like I found out from si campaign manager Lito Banaya na in the case of si John Castruchones na yung dating Agrarian Reform Secretary ni Duterte, the night before lang siya nagsabi na, uy, pwede ba akong sumama sa Proclamation Rally? Tapos even other Duterte supporters were just doing last minute, parang inviting themselves to the proclamation rally. So in my mind, parang teka, parang may turning point where they decided, oh, we have to show our support for Isko. So parang mystery na parang bakit ngayon? And although obviously you can guess, diba? Kasi since wala na si Bongo and ito yung first day of the campaign, na they want to make known where they stand. And siguro gusto rin nila maging relevant. Ayaw nila mawalan sa ere. And I think these are the people who can't really support Marcos for whatever reason. So kay Isko, they decided to go with him, especially since the days before and the months before, pinaparamdaman naman ni Isko na ano, gusto niya si Duterte, friendly siya kay Duterte, he won't hand him over to the ICC and everything. So I guess nagkaroon ng clarity where these Duterte supporters stand, and we can really see saan papunta yung Isko campaign. Kasi talagang hina-highlight nila yung presence ng mga Duterte appointees. Like very obvious, they were put on stage, they were made to speak, give testimonials, sinasabi na nandito sila, like, oh, announcing the presence of so and so. So I think finally we understand where the strategy is and what will the strategy be, especially since they have these, diba, them on board and hina-highlight talaga nila. So some people nga are wondering, it's only a matter of time before Duterte endorses Isko. Pero hindi natin alam kasi kahit yung mga volunteers na yan, yung mga Duterte supporters and appointees, they act independently of Duterte, or actually more accurately, Duterte acts independently of them. He doesn't really listen to them. They're not his closest advisors. So pretty possible na wala siyang pake kung pumunta sila. And he'll just do whatever he wants.
Pia, may question ako sa'yo mabilis bago tayo pumunta kay Mara. So, yun nabanggit mo, mga puro Duterte. So, hindi ka ba nade-deja vu sa mga taong nakikita mo sa kampanya nung...
Ay, nako. Sobrang deja vu. I remember, like, ako yung one of the few media na pumapansin kay John Castrichones before. Kasi siya yung nag-organize sa mga Pampanga events. Alam niyo ba yung event na where Duterte had a woman on his lap? Yun, in-organize ng MRRD and ECC yun. And he was just an unknown lawyer then. Pero ngayon, nasa stage na siya ng proclamation rally. So makita mo talaga yung parang change in circumstance nila. But at the same time, diba, they're still supporting kind of a very similar candidate. So, grabe, major deja vu talaga.
Balikan ko lang, Pia, yung about the having celebrities on your proclamation rally or on your sorties. Indikasyon din kasi ito ng resources at suporta doon sa kandidato. Whether we like it or not, that's just how Philippine politics works. You have to keep people fired up. Even if they support you, they are going to wait for you for hours kasi very unpredictable yung galaw, lalo na pa nagmo-motorcade or naglilipat-lipat sa iba't ibang mga bayan. Dati si Binay, I covered Vice President Jejomar Binay na 2016 presidential race. Meron siyang set schedule. Minsan bababa yun bigla sa wet market. So yung mga tao na nasa sortie place, you have to keep them entertained. And that's where the celebrities come in. So the celebrities are gonna be there, number one, to entertain the crowd. Number two, to make sure that there's no going to be awkward lull moments. Kasi that's a event organizing nightmare, diba? Na biglang may crew, walang nangyayari. And that's how you keep the crowd hype all throughout. Ano din yun, the fact, indikasyon din nga kasi yun kung may pera ba o wala, or not necessarily pera, kasi there are also celebrities who are going to show up to these rallies for free. Pero, for example, I covered Ocho Derecho in the 2019 elections. Bihira yung mga celebrities or big bands appearing on their sorties. Pero dito kay VP Lenny, kahit dun sa Lenny Kiko Volunteer Center sa Quezon City, may mga nagpo-perform na malalaking banda. And so that is an indication that will tell you that these guys probably have the money to pay for the talent fees. Or if not, these artists actually believe in this candidate so much that they're willing to waive their thousands worth of talent fees just to be there and entertain the crowd and help the campaign in the way they can.
Pero alam mo, naalala ko nung 2016, si Duterte walang artista who went for him in the first few months. Alam ko nung yung Liberal Party, diba nandun sino yun? Yung Love Team? Si
Katniel.
Katniel.
Yeah.
Wala. In fact, I barely remember his kick-off na parang walang nagsalitang local official. Like, it was really kulelat in a way. So parang, it just goes to show, di ba? Like, you never know kung sino yung
Yes.
benta towards the end of the campaign. Pero since,
Mm.
I guess since Mark, I don't know kung may questions pa kayo, pero isang question ko parang, Mark, ito ng isang milestone to na we are finally beginning the campaign period. And so, yeah, the next 90 days or 80 days is already laid out for us as reporters. So, yung challenge sa atin, di ba? How to stay objective and critical when we're constantly embedded in these candidates teams. Kilala natin yung mga strategists nila, yung staff nila, yung nagbibigay sila ng pagkain sa atin. Syempre, on the campaign trail, we make friends with their staff and their supporters. We're like on the front lines. We're basically immersed in kind of their like world. So parang how do you when one stay sane but also stay critical of what they're doing despite the personal relationships you form with their staff and even with the candidates themselves?
Ako,
Baka
I
Bea.
can jump in. Very, sige, Bea, you wanna,
I mute.
girl muted ka, girl.
No, I think that's a very interesting question, and I think that's a question a lot of observers and our readers or viewers might be like it's something they've been thinking about to the back of their head. No, I think I'm not gonna answer it directly or perhaps medyo malabo yung sagot na to. Pero yung crucial dito nga, yung understanding din, your understanding of your role and the understanding of the campaign teams, the way the campaign team understands your role, right? Like parang kaya naman kasi yung balance na you're friendly, you have access, but at the end of the day, you have to understand and they have to understand that you're not a part of the campaign team. Like you may look like you're part of the campaign team kasi like, I mean, I'm sure you remember this from 2016 at one point, parang you spend more time with the campaign team than you do your own friends and family, right? For better or worse. So parang kailangan malinaw din yung roles. And siguro parinig na rin to sa lahat ng mga campaign staff ng mga candidates ngayon, kay national or local postman yan, na parang I think it's also a matter of mutual respect na rin. Na parang your role is to prop up your candidate. Our role is not to bring the candidate down. Like that's not our goal naman. But our role is to question. Our role is to challenge the candidate. Kay plataforma man yan. Ano ba? Mga secrets that they may be hiding, inconsistencies in their statements and pronouncements. So parang yun, hindi ko talaga siya nasagot, pero siguro, panawagan na rin siguro yun sa mga nakikinig na campaign staff.
Okay. Ako, I wanna raise a very good practice na nakita ko sa PhilStar. Kasi, napansin kasi yung kasama ko nagko-cover na reporter, si Save Gregorio, wala siya lang sariling sasakyan, but to be able to go to dito sa Bicol, shout out kay Save and to our PhilStar friends. May media van kasi na ino-offer ang VP Lenny campaign team. Tapos napansin ko at the end of a Save story, para may disclaimer doon na clarify nila na sumakay si Save doon sa ino-offer na media van, but very clear doon sa campaign team and very clear sa editorial team na ano lang yun, wala yung condition whatsoever, talagang sasakay lang siya to be able to cover the Robredo campaign team, does not have a say in the story. And I think it's important that, newsrooms do make clear parameters like this. Depende na yun kung anong klaseng disclosure, if it has to be explicit as what PhilStar is doing. But I think first time ko yun actually na-encounter since I started covering the elections in 2016. And I think it's a good practice din. Kasi para dun sa mga readers, lalo na para sa mga katulad naming online reporter, sa mga print, hindi lahat ng newsrooms nakapagpapadala ng sasakyan kasi mahirap din mag-cover it. It entails a lot of money. So, campaign teams usually offer media vehicles. And klaro naman yun sa aming mga reporters na talagang walang utang na loob doon kasi kailangan din naman nila yung mga reporter na mag-cover. But yeah, I think that's important also for newsrooms to set those boundaries. Some campaign teams who have a lot of resources will also offer to book the hotels for the reporters. Pero halimbawa sa Rappler, kami mismo mga reporter, yung nagbo-book nung hotel namin, if ever we ask assistance from the campaign teams, sila lang yung booking pero ang bayaran yung opisina. So these efforts that happen behind the scenes are very important signals din to the campaign team na kahit inaalagaan nyo kami sa field or tinutulungan nyo kami in terms of logistics, I will still be as critical as I am with all other candidates, with your candidate.
I can add, I guess I also appreciate, first time kong campaign and sobrang na-appreciate ko yung Rappler desk when it comes to approving or just striking down stories that are not necessary. Minsan kasi sobrang deep focus tayo na parang mukhang mahalaga to. Relatively sa aking birds, sa aking close-up view, parang mahalaga tong story na to. Pero since our desk, our editors have a bird's eye view, as in mas malawak kanilang tingin, kita nila kung anong mga story yung nakikita ng mga tao, binabasa ng mga tao, ano yung malapit sa kanila. Pwede lang sabihin na in the bigger sense of things, yan mahalaga. Or kung nilabas natin yan, parang kung pinatulan natin yan, parang it's not important or magmumukhang we are favoring the candidate. As in, meron naman silang prenong binibigay sa reporter na hindi yan kailangan or ilagay mo na lang yan sa later detail of the story. Kasi tinitingnan din talaga ang coverage natin by the number of stories, di ba? And for angling, mahalaga rin yung mga editors na napakarami experience na ipapaalalahanan ka na, uy, nangako siya ng ganito, pero nung taong ganito, hindi naman niya ginawa yan. Alam mo yung senador na yan, kasi matanda na yung aking mga kino-cover, di ba? Decades of experience. So, ipo-point out ng minders or other editors and reporters na itong track record niya, by the way. And aside from the editors, I also found it really helpful to not really befriend or be pally, pero parang just to respect our fellow colleagues and to talk with them. Kanina, meet the press sina Lacson at Soto at kinausap ko si senior reporter na si Miss Mean Los Baños sa TV5 and nagtatanong ako sa kanya maganda ba itong promise na to or paano ba kanila pamalakad sa campaign. So maganda rin yun na you speak with your fellow reporters, I think, para ma-fact check yun rin ng isa't isa or maganda ba itong angle yung kinukuha ko. Hindi naman sa pinapaprove mo yung angle pero para ma-fact check din or ma-refine mo yung angulo kung tama ba kasi mas matagal din mag-cover ibang mga tao dito eh. And I guess lastly, yung constant reminder din sa sarili natin that this really is a psychological war. Itong campaign sorties is the perfect setup for them to deliver their message. So para tayong mga aso na tinatanggap lang yung message nila. At kahit na dinedefend natin, since the situation is right, the lighting is right, the music is right, napakadali pa rin pumasok sa utak. So maganda maging constantly aware din doon. I think.
Sa akin, dagdag ko lang, maganda talaga na nagbe-build tayo ng wall. I mean, sabi nga ni Rambo, define relationship. Totoo yun kasi kasi mahirap kapag walang wall, kasi minsan parang sobrang kasama mo na sila lagi, tapos parang kung ano na yung tatanungin mo sa kanila. Minsan kasabi mo sila kumain, diba? So, ako kasi personally, madali kasi ako maging close sa mga tao. So, ang ginagawa ko for the Leody campaign. Totoo kasi talaga ako eh. Talaga FC talaga. Charot. Hindi talaga ako. As in, kahit bigyan mo ako ng 1 minute, kaya kong kausapin yung tao na kahit never ko pa siya nakausap. So, ang ginagawa ko kay Leody, before ako nag-start, talagang sinabi ko sa sarili ko na hindi ko sila dapat hindi ko sila dapat i-close masyado. Tapos dapat talaga mag-build ako ng wall. So, yun yung first strategy na ginagawa ko. The second one, devil's advocate. As in, each time naman sinasabi si Yodi, si Walden, at the back of my mind, dapat hindi ako mag-a-agree agad. Dapat nandun pa rin yung pagiging fair ko sa sarili ko, and at the same time sa readers kasi journalist ako at the end of the day, I need to cover them with fairness, accuracy, and balance. So, kailangan devil's advocate ako lagi. Dapat hindi pag sinabi ni Bello na wealth tax, oo, tama yan. Anuhin natin ng mga kapitalista, blah, blah, blah. No, hindi ganun dapat. Hindi tayo dapat agad naniniwala. Para akong, devil's advocate. And then the third one, gusto ko lang, tama yung sinabi ni Rambo kanina. Mahalaga din para madali kumilos on ground talaga. Ang kino-close ko na lang din talaga yung mga older journalists kasi this is my first time covering presidential elections. Hindi ko kasi alam yung mga galawan behind the scenes pa, hindi pa masyado. So sobrang na-appreciate ko yung mga advices, mga chika ng mga matatandang mga senior na journalists, hindi sila matatanda. Mga senior na journalists, mga photographers. So ako nakiki-embed ako sa kanila. So ako, iyon yung isang strategy ko. Imbes na mag-embed ako sa campaign, doon ako sa mga senior but not necessarily older journalists. Ayun.
Mga senior tong dalawang to, no?
Sundot ko rin kay Jairo, we're also privileged to be guided by our senior reporters, si Pia, si Bea.
True.
Yeah.
Inulit pa.
Talaga.
Inulit pa. May
Bata pa lang
dagdag
po
lang
ako,
ako.
binabata ko na si Bea Copin.
May dagdag lang ako before Aika siguro. I think what people also don't like underestimate is how, okay, there is a tendency to like maybe be too close to the principal that you're covering and his team. But there's also a tendency for you to be like fed up with, I mean, not fed up, pero parang you see right through the person kasi ang tagal mo na siyang kinakover. Kilala mo na siya, kilala mo na yung habits ng person na yun, kilala mo yung mannerisms niya, you know their tendencies, you know, parang alam mo na kung na, oh, okay, I know this person's lying because that's, you know, like, that smile is so fake. Like, I know when that, I won't name specific candidates, actually hindi current candidates, but like people I covered in the past. Like, eventually kasi, sa tagal ng time that you cover them, you see them speak, you see them dodge your questions, you see them deny what everyone already knows, diba? Parang whether it be about the campaign or policy or whatever. Parang you really see through the, I'm not allowed to curse, but you see through that, you see through it. So advantage din yun, nababad ka. Kasi yun nga, parang may institutional knowledge ka. Tapos parang may gut feel ka na kung when that person is nervous, and then you wonder, oh, why is the candidate or why is that official nervous? What's making them nervous? So yeah, there's also an advantage to it din. Yung sobrang babad na babad ka na.
Yeah. Yung awareness nung embedded campaign reporter sa mannerisms ng kandidato. Importante din yan if you wanna make sure may storya ka for the day. For example, merong controversial na issue about your candidate and you really have to ask him or her, or biglang bumababa na sa surveys after being a front runner for so long. Malalaman mo paano mo titimplahin yung pagtanong or paano or malalaman mo paano kayong mga embedded reporters para magsa-strategize kayo. Okay, ano yung una nating tatanungin? Tatanungin ba natin si controversial question 1 or dun muna tayo sa easy questions pa relaxin natin siya kasi alam natin once tanungin natin ang controversial question, magagalit na si kandidato, baka mag-walk out. Pare-pareho kayong walang storya, nagpagod kayo buong araw. Yeah. And so yun, that's important tas makikita mo din marunong ka makakapag-adjust ka with the manner how you're going to phrase your question and how you're going to answer it. Parang am I going to get the soundbite if I'm combative or if I'm going to just mellow down a little bit but still getting that, you know, a very difficult question across. And this is something that you will learn to adjust as you go along and mas makikilalanin mo yung kandidato.
Tsaka dagdag ko lang kay
Siguro,
Mara, parang use...
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, sige, go. Just to finish the
sobrang mabilis na sundot. Kaya useful din in the beat, in the pack of reporters, useful to have one reporter who's known for being kind, being gentle. Kasi, hindi ko sinasabi na sa current beat ko to, pero in my past beats, parang may ganong klaseng tao na parang, ikaw na magtanong kasi gusto ka niyan. Parang, mabait yan sa'yo, patient yan sa'yo.
Parang pag siya yung nagtanong, less maiinis yung principal.
Kasi parang,
konti lang.
Kasi
pero
minsan parang, kunwari, kung ako, mukha ko pa lang yung makikita niya may hawak ng mic, baka tumaas yung BP ni sir, ni ma'am, di ba? So, may ganun ding mga technique minsan yung, kaya it's also important to have a good relationship with your fellow reporters. So anyway, Aika.
Anyway, yung sa akin lang naman, siguro dagdag ko lang sa Pacquiao, no? Sila na mismo yung nag-put up ng wall, in a way. Kasi nga,
in fairness.
Kasi medyo pagka-celebrity na si Senator Pacquiao So, you'd feel like sanay na talaga sila na merong security na nagbabantay sa kanya. And hindi naman siguro parang, yun nga. So, at least alam na ng mga tao na sila na in a way nag-put up ng wall kasi nga palagi nga hindi mo siya, nung Proclamation rally, siguro nakita lang namin siya nung caravan pero hindi namin siya nakausap. Nakausap na namin siya nung Q&A before the rally itself. So, medyo mahirap siyang i-ambush interview. So yun, may wall na siya and hindi mo siya palagi talaga nakikita. Ang point of palaging nakakausap namin is yung staff niya. And I think, yun nga, nabanggit nga rin nila na important yung merong distance ka in a way. But of course, syempre, hindi naman pwede yung sobrang distance mo, sobrang malayo naman, no? From Philippines to Singapore, parang gano'n. Hindi naman gano'n, no? Pero parang more of ano lang.
May personal
Pero more
hugot
of,
yan.
May
hindi
hugot
naman,
yata yan,
pero,
Miss Aika.
wow,
Sa
yun yung
tagal
unang
pa ba to?
nag-pop up sa head ko eh. No, pero yun nga, di ba? Kasi parang, konting distance lang naman yung kailangan. Kasi syempre, pag kausap mo rin naman, o kaya yun nga, nabanggit ni Mara kanina, yung pagsakay sa media van, ganyan. Kasi minsan, hindi man lahat nga ng reporters merong mahahire na sasakyan. So, I think yung mga ganong instances na makakasama mo sila, yun yung time for you to actually ask them or parang to bond with them in a way. But of course, syempre, parang doesn't mean naman na magiging super chummy-chummy ka na sa kanila or super friends na kayo. So, very important pa rin yung distance. And I think yun nga, same with them na parang makukuha mo yung distance na yun kapag kasama mo naman yung other, yung fellow reporters mo din na naka-embed. And I think important din na for fellow reporters to how do I say it? Kung nakayo-kayo mismo yung you have each other's back in a way dahil nga syempre kung magkakaroon man ng initan sa media tsaka yung ano sila yung sasama magiging backup sa'yo or something like that. Yun.
Ibabato ko yung question kay PA, yung tanong niya dito sa suspending the magic of the candidate. Kasi kinover ko briefly si Isko eh. And when you watch him speak, he enters a zone na parang, nasaan tayo ngayon? Ang galing niya magsalita. Tapos umabot siya sa punta sa akin na kinocover ko sa parang kailangan ko pang kurutin yung sarili ko na huwag ka maniwala sa sinasabi niyo. Huwag ka maniwala ka agad sa kanya sinasabi. His voice is good, pero huwag ka maniwala. Ikaw, Pia, how do you deal with it? Especially with the campaign?
Totally agree na when you listen to Isko, you're really transported kasi iba yung iba yung dating niya. Parang may mix of sincere pero showbiz quality na ang pino-pino niya, syempre gwapo, tas yung mga sinasabi niya parang may driven by a purpose eh. Parang hindi siya empty. Like you can feel na meron siyang personal hugot. And I guess that's how he's able to weave a magical speech na parang if I ask people around me, talagang parang nadala talaga sila ng speech ni Isko. So the way I manage it, parang I know that part of it is artifice. Like just the awareness na may artifice dyan. Kasi hindi naman lahat dyan parang rooted in reality. Like very, very, the magic itself, diba? It comes from the fact na hindi siya, na ang ganda-ganda niyang isipin pero hindi siya proven in reality. So, I'm not saying na liars or anything, pero more of, ano ka lang, parang hyper-aware na meron rin siyang, hindi naman propaganda, pero parang may agenda yung sinasabi niya. Like, yung kanyang rant about Robredo and Marcos, yung elitist politics nila, parang, it sounds so, tama, di ba? Parang fight elitist politics. But at the same time, alam mo na, sinasabi niya yun kasi sila yung dalawang rivals na ahead of him in surveys. So, di ba, ba't di niya pinagtatripan si Pacquiao? Ba't di niya pinagtatripan si Lacson? Kasi hindi naman threat sila as of now. So, yun lang, yung awareness na what he's saying is happening in a historical context, in a context where he wants to win. And go-getter si Isko, he knows what buttons to press. So you just have to be aware that he is pressing those buttons with, an end in mind. So para sa akin yun lang, parang just alam mo lang yung context ng sinasabi niya.
Motive talaga.
Alam mo
Political
tama din yun. Sorry.
Sorry?
Alam mo tama din yun, Pia, yung sinasabi mo na parang binabanatan. Kasi I remember during October 2021 when I first got the assignment to cover Liotti, medyo mabait pa sila kay Robredo kasi of course they're still part of the opposition. And then I remember Liotti saying na parang si Robredo daw yung hindi enabler among all the candidates. But now, listening to De Guzman and Bello, pinabanata na nila. Bello even said na parang yung rosas na yan, yung asul na yan, yung blue na yan, yung pula na yan, ano lang yan, mga slogan lang yan. Kailangan natin democratic socialism. So talagang tama yun. No? It really makes sense kasi talagang sila yung behind sa surveys among all the candidates that we have today.
Kasi kailangan mo na you have to position yourself na against everyone else. So yung tanong ko nga, kasi parang nabanggit nga natin ba ulit-ulit, diba? Parang kumbaga ito yung grand opening, naging tindahan sila. Parang kumbaga ito yung grand opening ng campaign. Um, pero ang haba pa nito, guys. Napagod bigla. I mean, it's a 90-day campaign. As we, like, going back to what Pia said earlier, di ba? Parang kung malungkot yung kick-off ni Rodrigo Duterte noong 2016, napaka-opposite naman yung nangyayari sa campaign niya by election day. So I'm just wondering, like, for your tandems, the candidates that you cover, like, what should our viewers, what should our readers watch out for, and what are you watching out for personally, like, given the tone that they set during the kickoff?
I can start sa aking mga lolo. Sa aking mga lolo. Sa mga senador natin.
Titos naman, sabi mo, di ba sabi mo, actual age 70, hanggang age 51.
Titos naman.
Matandaan
Sila
ko yun.
And technically, lolo na sila pareho. May mga apo na sila. Saka Tito Lacson. But our senators, kayo na tinanong ko sila about surveys wherein sabi ko kay Lacson, single digit ka pa rin, sir. Paano ba yan? Parang hindi tumatalab yung inyong messaging at sinasabi nyo kasi from the start na stick tayo sa platform. Gusto ko seryoso pa rin. And nakatanggap naman kasi din siya ng feedback eh. Marami na ako nakita mga tao na impressed kay Lacson sa Jessica Soho interview, Boya Bonda interview. And umaas si Lacson na tumaas yung kanyang rating pero mukha from the leak surveys that we saw earlier today, parang hindi tumalab. At sinabi ko yun sa kanya. Sabi niya, we will stick to it. At saka, ito yung magandang sinabi niya siguro kanina, parang handa na siyang matalo. Ready siyang matalo. Sabi niya kahit anong mangyari, panalo na rin ako sa akin kasi inilabas ko yung aking gusto sabihin. At kung makikinig man ng Pilipino o hindi, ginawa ko yung aking kailangan gawin. At yun yung pangangampanya. At siguro kung hindi handa ang mga botante, very US yun, di ba? Parang nababasa ko to sa US articles, yung mga politicians doon kung natatalo sila. Maybe the voters were not ready, the electorate was not ready. Yun yung parang sinabi kanina ni Lacson effectively na baka hindi handa ang Pilipino para sa atin kung yun yung nangyari. Pero patuloy pa rin ang pangampanya nila, mas level-headed. Siguro, here and there, maglalabas pa rin ng Itbulaga cast member si Soto. Pero as far as the main event, which is Lacson and Soto mismo, they will still stick to their platforms. And it might be repetitive. Pinoint out dito ni Bea dun sa usapan natin sa chat ata na parang it gets repetitive. And paulit-ulit na siya. So, that's what you can count on the Lacson Soto campaign. It's repetitive, but for them, it's consistent and they will fight for it until the end.
Para sa akin, with Isko, I'm really waiting to see how he'll react if Duterte ends up bashing him. Kasi diba, si Duterte nagbanta siya na I will reveal controversies about each candidate. So, what if isa yun, like yung pinaka-corrupt, what if sabihin niya si Isko yun, diba? So, paano mag-recalibrate ng strategy si Isko? Because his campaign is spectacularly risky in the sense that it is hinged on Duterte's support, which we know is extremely unreliable, di ba? Like, kahit sabihin niya tomorrow na, oh, I'm voting for Isko, I endorse Isko, what can keep him from taking that back in April? Diba? So parang talaga, you're really going to put your fate in the hands of Duterte, who's the most, diba, parang mercurial person. So, scary talaga. So, I'm really thinking like, magkakaroon ba ng parang point where he starts to side with Robredo? Kasi nga, parang in a way, because of this parang strategy, di ba? Like, nawawalan siya ng personality. Maganda naman kasi yung kanyang origin na parang, I'm the middle mayor, effective leadership, may resibo, etc. So, if he had only, I don't know, if he were to stick to that messaging and maybe not so much promote the fact that he wants Duterte to support him, baka it would put his campaign in a less riskier position than it is now.
Mm-hmm. Ako for me, for Robredo, ang inaabangan ko ngayon sa kanya, knowing kasi that right after their launch dito sa Bicol, ang susunod na nilang pinupuntahan na yung mga probinsya at mga lugar na hindi masyadong malakas si VP Lenny. Case in point, Batangas sila today. Ang sinusuportahan ni Governor si Bongbong. Tapos ang mga recto, si Isko. But she's still there. And so for me, as a campaign reporter, I'm watching out how is she going to show that she stands a chance in these areas where, you know, the local lords, the local leaders are supporting somebody else. And that's where the kakampings, the volunteers are coming in. And I'm also tinitignan ko sino yung mga politiko na willing to come out for VP Lenny as early as now. Kasi yung extra factor pa dito kay VP Lenny, she's the opposition to the current administration. And for the other candidates para dun sa mga hardcore DDS, si VP Lenny talaga completely out of their choices, pero mas palatable for them si Isko, si Ping, si Manny. And so I'm very interested to see who are the local leaders willing to go out and support VP Lenny. Ako din, one thing unique about the Robredo campaign team is yung volunteer movement ka. And for me, it's becoming apparent that meron ding local politics talaga coming into play, and something that the Robredo campaign team needs to manage very well. Because even if their volunteers are wholeheartedly supporting VP Lenny, they have their own local candidates they are supporting that may not necessarily be the candidate that VP Lenny thinks she should be endorsing, or maybe they would want VP Lenny to endorse yung bet nila for mayor sa city or sa municipality nila, pero VP Lenny can't do that because there's going to be complications with the other person running for that local post. And so I'm looking out kung how these local politics will be assessed and will be handled by the Robredo campaign team.
Siguro para sa Pacquiao, yung mga susunod na sorties ni Senator Pacquiao, no, I think important na makita, no, kung paano niya talaga matatranslate yung votes na gusto niya. Kasi ang point ng campaign niya ngayong first few months ay magsisimula muna sa Mindanao and then Visayas. Kasi ang gusto niya nga, kaya siya tumatakbo sa PROMD and yung alliance sila with MP3 and yung PDP, PDP laban siya, diba? Tapos PROMD and then MP3 alliance. So, kaya siya tumatakbo under PROMD kasi ang gusto niya talaga ay makonsolidate yung votes ng Visayas and Mindanao. So, I think it's important to check kung ano yung mga susunod na mangyayari in areas like na openly nag-endorse na rin sa frontrunner na si Bongbong Marcos. So, yun yung isa sa mga pwede nating abangan sa mga susunod na araw. And aside from that, meron din kasi siyang pabahay, no? Meron siyang housing program. And itong housing program na to, I think important to kasi gusto niya talagang ipakita na hindi na siya puro salita, no? Itong mga promises na sinasabi niya, nagawa niya na daw using his own money. So, meron siyang mga groundbreaking and meron siyang mga media tour na lalabas pa in the coming days. And sabi niya kasi, pinaplano niya daw na magtayo pa sa Cavite, Batangas, and Cebu. So, yung 3 areas na yun yung gusto pa raw niyang patayuan. So, let's see kung madadagdagan pa yung other areas na yun kasi so far, ang meron siya talaga marami sa Sarangani and sa Jensan. And siguro dagdag ko lang, no, meron siya sa Uganda. So I think medyo interesting to for me na nagtayo siya sa Uganda for Africans kasama ng
Wow.
actually yun yung first, siya yung parang unang initiative niya talaga yun. Tapos parang may other athletes na lang na nakisama sa kanya. So sinasabi niya nga kung meron na siya sa Uganda, what more pa kung ano pa yung kaya niyang gawin kung naging president siya. So yun yung mga kailangan natin tingnan in the coming months. Yeah.
Yeah, very very Miss Universe yung yung Uganda, no. Anyway, yung sa akin naman ang inaabangan ko so far ay paano nila mata-translate yung votes, yung paano nila mata-translate yung labor force sa votes kasi the labor vote has 50 million votes, 'di ba? We have around 50 million voters in the Philippines but only 1 million is organized. So I asked them about it, how are you going to translate it in 90 days? And very very optimistic sila. I must say ambitious and optimistic sila about it translating the labor vote. Isa problem din yun kung paano nila mata-translate yun kasi imagine the labor sector, the KMU under the Makabayan Bloc has already pledged of course their vote to Lenny Robredo of course kasi somewhat sila kapartner nila yun under na si Nery Colmenares ng Isang Bayan Coalition. At the same time yung Sani Matula, yung labor bloc ni Sani Matula ay already promised around 2 million votes for Lenny Robredo. So it's a big challenge for the De Guzman and Bello tandem to get their real votes kasi last time pang 38 lang si Calio di sa 2019 Senate election. So it's really the challenge for them, especially that they don't have the machinery and sabi nila hindi naman daw sila nagre-rely sa pera, nagre-rely sila sa organic mass movements, organic mobilizations nila doon sa ground ng mga tao, ng mga supporters nila, ng mga laborers at ng mga workers. So, yun yung inaabangan natin.
So ako yung rep ng unity. Rep ng unity. Clearly, obviously, Marcos Jr. and Sara Duterte, they're the team to beat, right? That's both a good thing kasi sobrang, ang laki ng gap, especially for Marcos Jr., right? Sa next na presidential candidate na. But that's also quite intimidating kasi kumbaga this is yours to lose na at least if you take a snapshot no of February 2021 like right now or the last surveys na nag-leak na hindi sila officially released no. So why is that scary? Because that means all the other candidates target will be you. Kasi ikaw yung nasa taas eh. Di ba? Parang, well, it depends. Some candidates might want to shoot down, perhaps to get votes from the the candidate next to them. So, yun, parang kumbaga may target na kasi sila nga yung two front runners. They're the leaders. Pero syempre bukod din doon, di ba, parang yung disqualification case against former Senator Marcos may breaking tie right before we started airing this. So, pero I want to focus lang on the campaign itself, like what challenges or things that we are definitely like paying attention to. Another is that the debates. Nagsabi na si Senator Marcos through his spokesperson na I think they prefer, instead of debates, they prefer one-on-one interviews. But then like when the COMELEC debates roll around, like won't there be clamor for him to join that? Like will it, di ba parang hindi natin alam kung anong mangyayari sa part na yan. And then, yun nga, because they're the candidates to beat at this point, the scrutiny will be intense or it would expectedly be intense, like from the media, from their rivals also. And then finally, kasi naalala ko noong 2016, yung tanong ko when I was covering the former Secretary Mar Rojas and then Representative Robredo, eventually the VP, no? Yung tanong nun is, can Daang Matuwid win an election? So can continuity, can the promise of continuity win an election? The answer is yes and no. The standard bearer lost, but the vice presidential candidate won. Ito naman yung tanong natin is, can unity and good vibes, parang is that enough to win a Philippine election? If the elections were held today, clearly we know who would win. They would win. Pero parang sustain mo ba yung unity message na yun for 90? That's a lot. That's a long time. Like so many things can happen. Either external things, like things that happen to them and things that they do. So, yun, parang marami pa ring kaabang-abang when you talk about the unity. Yes.
Yun. So, that ends our second episode of Campaign Convos. Pero ang layo-layo pa ng ating dadaanin. I mean, 90 days is just starting and ang dami pang kailangan i-unpack. Ang dami pang pwede mangyari like Bea said. And so many questions remain unanswered. And we are going to be here at Campaign Convos to help you get through it all, like wade through the noise and understand what's happening. So again, maraming salamat. Thanks for joining us and till the next episode. Bye.